Then you've got your boiler vent just here. So if your boiler was lit up on gas, you'd be able to feel some warm air coming out through the tops either side of that. Lower locker just there opens up, and that's sort of like wet storage and things like that. The catches on there are good, so it holds up nice and easily. Your flush fluid is this one just here. So when you fill that up, you want to fill it up with your pink fluid pre-mixed. Toilet cassette locker. Lift up on this little tab down here, pull it all the way out towards you. Once it's got to this point, you can then see that you need to empty it out from here. And when you are emptying it out, you need to hold down the little yellow button there at the back whilst you're doing it. The only thing you need to remember, as part of the habitation check, we have done this already, but you need to keep on top of lubricating this little seal just in here. Otherwise it will get stuck and it won't come out freely like that. So just make sure that you keep your eye on that. Just keep it lubricated with some kind of silicone lubricant. In the cab, a couple of bits to show you. You got your single-din Pioneer head unit up here. I can see there it's got aux, USB, CD, all sorts of bits and pieces like that. I don't know if it's got Bluetooth or anything, but I can't see any signs for it, so it might not. But I will show you in the back end, because it's an auto sleeper as well, it's another sort of typical thing for them to do. There'll be a switch in the back of the van which says radio isolator switch. And so when you press that in the back, it actually turns the power on for the radio and sends the sound to the speakers in the back, so that you can actually listen to the radio from the back of the vehicle. So yeah, it's sort of like a typical auto sleeper, auto trail thing to do. Hazard lights and fog light just there. All of your sort of settings for your heater are all here, but this is all easy stuff. This is all just car related, but that's that there. Obviously you've got your 5-speed manual gearbox. I have actually had to glue the gear knob back on with a really strong sealant, because the newer ones that we get for them, actually I tried to put it on and it didn't fit, it wouldn't work, so I've had to just glue this one back in, but it's with like a real strong Sikaflex sealant, which is what we use for bedding in the windows and things like that, so it shouldn't come off. But if you do get any problems with that, again, just let us know, we'll sort it out for you. But it's the best I could do for now. Your indicators are on this left hand side, and lights on the left hand stalk as well. Washers and wipers over on the right. Your reversing camera, I have cleaned the actual cameras off a little bit as well, because they were a bit dirty and making it a little bit more difficult to see, but that all literally comes on as soon as you put it in reverse. That'll come on, and because there's 2 cameras in the one system, you can press this V1 V2 button here on the right, and it will switch between the 2 cameras, so you can either see straight back or straight down. Electric adjusting mirrors from here, and your windows just there. Your bonnet release is just down here under the driver's seat. But that's about it really for these cabs. There's not a huge amount to show you. Obviously the habitation check has all flown through. There was a couple of bits and pieces that I had to do to it, but they're all just standard things, nothing nasty, nothing sort of, all the appliances worked straight away. I didn't have to do anything with those, but just sort of catches and clips and things like that. But you've got these just here, just to help this stay shut when you're driving, like that. Okay, so you've got your control panel just up here above the door. So the main on and off switch is this one just here. So once you've got that on, you can flick through and see a few things. So these first ones are kind of irrelevant, you don't really need to worry about that. You can set your clock time up if you want to. Don't need to worry about that one, that's on the other vans, or well, like auto cruises. And you also don't need to worry about that one either, just leave that one on internal. Wastewater level, empty, because the wastewater's already drained out from down there like I showed you. And freshwater level, 25% full. So now that you can see that there's 25% water in the fresh tank, I can then click here on the water pump switch, and when I get over to the sink, water will come out from the tap. So that might sound really silly to say that, because I know that's probably quite obvious, but doing that and making sure the water's coming out okay just here on this hot side, when you turn the tap off, the pump should turn itself off. If the pump doesn't turn itself off, it usually means there's either a leak somewhere or there's not enough water in the tank or the boiler. So that's really important to do that. If you don't do that and then you light your boiler up, it's possible that you'll be lighting up your boiler when it's empty, which is the worst thing you can do in a motorhome. So you need to make sure that you do this first. Make sure that you've got a little bit of water in your fresh tank, 25%, pump switch on, and then just make sure that your water comes through the hot side okay. If it doesn't come through okay and it's sort of coughing and spluttering at you, just leave it on until it does come through nicely, and then you can go ahead and start using your boiler and stuff like that. So that's just really important to do that. You then also got this aux button, which, if I remember, does your awning light, I think, or there's a separate switch for it or something. Can't remember off the top of my head, but yeah, aux button there. Does sort of various bits and pieces around the vehicle. I mean, like, you know, if you didn't have the aux switch on, I don't think your ignition here for the cooker would work, that kind of thing. So basically, when you first get into the van, you want to go power on, pump switch on, aux power on, and then you can go ahead and start using various bits and pieces. So you've got 12 volt up here, so that turns up your lights up and around the cupboards there. I'll turn that off for now because you don't really need it on. All of your other lights that are dotted about will work as well. So you've got a couple under here. So like that. So all of these lights back here will all work now. Obviously, you've gone through and made sure that they all work as part of the habitation check anyway, so they should all be good. Just make sure there's nothing confusing about the bathroom lights. No, so the bathroom lights are just the same. They've just got these switches on the side of them, so they'll come on just like that. So once you've done that, you can forget about that bit for that, you know, for now. So you've done your sink, but you've made sure that your boiler's full. Then you can sort of forget about that from then on. Next bit really to show you is the fridge. So inside the actual fridge, you've got this little freezer box which you can open up, and so that's like, you know, it's a fridge at the bottom, freezer inside here. So after a couple of hours, or however long it's going to take this fridge to get cold, usually is a couple of hours, the freezer should be nice and, you know, properly frozen up as well. So that's just something to bear in mind. So your dial at the top just here, you're aiming towards the gas symbol at the moment, and so basically what happens is, if I turn this off, so that right there is completely off, the fridge is 100% off now. If your gas is switched on in the cupboard, or turned on in the cupboard, literally just go like this, and you probably just heard there, the ignition comes on for a few seconds, it lights up, and that's it. That's all you have to do. So like I said, gas or mains, so the gas or the 230 volt switch there are the only ways that the fridge gets cold on its own, but it will take a couple of hours to actually get cold from hot. If you had a hookup cable plugged in, you could go to the next one there, and you would get a little green light inside there, and that's basically just the 240 volt element in the back heating up and then in turn cooling the fridge down. So that's if your hookup's plugged in. And if your engine was running and you were driving, you'd go down to 12 volt, and then that would basically just use a 12 volt element inside, and that'll keep the fridge cold. So the way that these fridges work, and it's the same on all of them, not just this one, you either need to get the fridge cold first via the gas or the electric, depending on which one you have at that time. So at the moment I've got gas, so you leave it on gas for a few hours, and then by the time that you get to leave, your fridge should already be cold, and then you switch over to the 12 volt, start the engine up. When you get to wherever you're going, you can then switch back over to either the 240 or the gas. So that's how you have to use a fridge. The reason for that is that the 12 volt element there doesn't get the fridge cold on its own. It only really holds the temperature that's already there. That's the same on all the fridges, but that's how you have to use it. So don't forget to put it back to either the gas or the 240 when you stop the engine, because when you turn the engine off, that will stop working as well. So that's that. I'll turn the fridge off for now. Cupboard next door. There's a little switch down there, which is probably for your fridge. So if you turn that switch off, when you plug the hookup cable into the van, the fridge wouldn't work on mains anymore. But at the moment, as soon as you plug a hookup into this van, the 240 volt switch will work. You've then got over here your hob, so it's like a complete stove unit. On the left hand side here, this dial here is for your hot plate at the back, which, like I said to you when you were here, when you have your hookup plugged in, this will work. If you don't have a hookup plugged in, it will not do anything at all. So, but when you are hooked up, you literally just go either 1 all the way through to 6, completely up to you, and that hot plate will just heat up, and you know, as you would expect. 3 burners at the top. You've got 1, 2, 3. They're the 3 burners on the top, and your ignition is this button just here. And so the ignition basically does all 3 of the burners, the grill and the oven, all at the same time. So that's just lit up just there. When you turn it off, what happens is you've got something called a thermocouple, and that's the same in all of the gas appliances around the vehicle. What a thermocouple does is it basically senses burning gas, and so when it's lit up, the thermocouple allows the gas to carry on coming through, which is how you get the flame to carry on. And if you turn it off, or if the flame gets blown out and you leave this on, the gas will obviously keep on pumping through until that thermocouple turns it off, which it will do because we've checked it as part of the habitation check. So that's that. That's all there and all working. The heating, obviously I will show you it working, but it's the hottest day of the year, so I don't really want to, but I will. So you've got this up here, so all you need to do is an electric ignition, turn it around to sort of 3 or 4, and then just push down on this button. Okay, that's all I'm going to do. See in there, you've got a little flame in there now. You see it flickering away. Now all I'm going to do is lift up on this and turn it around to sort of 8 or 9. 8 or 9 because it's a really hot day already, so it will take a little bit more to get it to go to its main flame. So I'm going to do that, lift up and turn it around to 8 or 9. So I'll show you what happens. So you see it's sort of coughing and spluttering a little bit. So all I did there, when it was started sort of coughing like that, push back down again, wait for a minute, and then let it back up. So you can see 2 flames down there. So until they both stay on, you just have to keep on doing this. So I'll push down again. Oh, hope you see it. It's a bit easier to see it in person. Lift up again. There you go, it's still on. It might go off again, it might not. There you go, it's gone off. So you do just have to keep on doing this. It might take a few goes to get it going, but once they're warm, they are fantastic. You literally just keep them on as long as you want. Let it up again. There you go. So that's on now, I'm not touching it. You can see there, both flames are on there now, and that will just stay on. All right, so all you have to do then to turn it off is turn it back round to the 0 like that. Make sure that your flame's gone out, and that's the heating off. But yeah, that is literally just how they work. Unfortunately, they are a little bit of a pain to get going, especially when it's hot outside. That's probably the reason why it's doing that, to be honest, but it's completely normal for it to take a few goes for it to actually stay lit. Over on this right hand side, you've got this little bit here, which is your fan. So the fan inside the back of this. So the idea is you get the heating on with the gas flame or with the electric, which I'll show you how to do in a minute, and then put your fan switch on. So put it over to the left and then choose from 1 to 5, and then any of these little circular vents around the vehicle will start pumping out that air that you're producing here. So after about 5 minutes or so, you'll feel the air coming out through those vents is really nice and hot. And also another tip is, once you've turned that gas flame off, if I was you, I would leave the fan on for about 5 or 10 minutes after you've turned it off, because it's much easier to disperse the heat around the vehicle rather than just out the front of here, because these get seriously hot. So, you know, you can't put anything over this, you can't like dangle your socks over this or anything like that, because they will burn. So leave the fan on for a little bit after you've turned it off is always a good idea. Back to the middle, turn it off. You've then got out here, I'm just trying to go around and show you all the gas stuff first. You've got your ultra store, so this is your boiler. So as long as you've checked that your boiler's full, exactly how I just showed you a minute ago, and that you've got your little vent off, so the vent is off there, look, you can turn this on. Like I just heard straight away, it just lit straight up. And so after about half an hour or so, you'll have nice hot water at your taps. Once you're done with the hot water, you do quite literally just turn it off like that. And so that is as easy as it gets on the gas systems. Turning the outside ring around once turns the gas flame on, and then when you finish with it, you just turn it back off again. You've got a mains cable here, so when your hookup's plugged in, this socket will work. 12-volt power and your aerial point are all here, along with a pretty standard TV bracket for the motorhomes here as well. So basically this is where you put your TV bracket, your TV, sorry, because it's all here. In this cupboard, there's a couple of important things. So you've got your TV aerial here, your tilt and turn aerial, and your TV aerial booster, which you can see there the power is working perfectly from. So that's all there and working. You've then got these two buttons just here. So the water heater one, if you had an electric hookup plugged in, if you turn that on and the light comes on, basically the water inside of the boiler will just heat up just straight away as soon as you turn this on. All right. The top one, heater, when you turn this on, that won't do anything until you come over here to this dial here, which says ultra heat. All right, so basically the one that says heater only inside the cupboard there just turns this switch on. All right, so you can, if you want to, if you're going to remember to turn this off where it is now, you can leave the heater one in there on all the time, because like I said, all it does is just literally isolate this dial. Once you've turned that on and the electric hookup's plugged in, you can choose between 500, 1000 or 2000 to get this little heater down here to warm up just via the electric element. Okay, so that's the isolator just there for that. And if you wanted to, you know, turn that off, you just literally go to the circle, the little off there. But you know, you can leave it on if you want to, but in my opinion it's sort of good practice to just turn both of these off whenever you're finished with them. Carpets for the vehicle are just here, so you know they're all here, they're all just rolled up. They all clip in to these little push clips here, and so they're all perfectly fitted and made up for this particular van. I realise as well, the reason that you've got these little bits on the floor which we can't get up, the reason they're there is because it would have Inca written on the carpets at some point, and when the carpets are laid down, it's obviously just sort of like bedded itself onto the floor. So once you've got those carpets down, you won't see that obviously, but you know, I'm just sorry that we can't do anything about that, just sort of ingrained into the floor now. But you know, once the carpets are down, you'll never see that. Your standalone table is here, and your table for the pole is over there as well. So yeah, that's it really, nice and simple. In the back, you've got your, let me just move that out of the way a little bit, your Sergeant, one second. So this is your PSU, so it's a power supply unit. So it's made by Sergeant, it's an EC200, and it's really standard little bit of kit to have in these. Super reliable units, so basically you don't need to do anything with it. When you plug a hookup cable into it, there's a charger built inside of this. You get the little red light up there, that'll light up as soon as it turns itself on. You've got 8 fuses down there on the left hand side, so that's your 12-volt fuses, and your trip switches are there as well. So if when you were hooked up on mains something wasn't working on the electric hookup, then you can just have a look in there and make sure they're all in the upright position. And also if your charger wasn't working, just make sure that you haven't accidentally turned that little switch off up there at the top there which says charger. But that's it really, it's all pretty straightforward stuff, but it's all kind of neatly put away in there in the wardrobe. So in the bathroom, again, it's all pretty nice and simple. Like I said, your lights are just up here with these little push switches. The shower is nice and easy, just literally hot and cold, hot to the left, cold to the right, so you just get your mixture right and then it'll all come out through there. Obviously you got your little catch down here for this shower screen, and you'll notice that there was a bit of a gap here, so when you actually are having a shower you need to pull this bit across, and then when you pull this around it'll just match in there and keep everything from coming out of here, so it'll all be watertight when you're using it. Although, just so that you know, if any water does get into here, it's really not the end of the world at all, because it probably will, to be honest. And there's a little plug down there, so if you just undo that, the water will just run down to the waste tank anyway. You tap here, so it's all wired up, you know, the water's all connected up to the same system. Pump turns itself straight off, so that means there's really good pressure there. Toilet, really nice and simple. So you've literally got your flush there, or your drain, sorry. So open, so that opens it into the cassette, and then close. That closes it over. And then you've got your flush button up here. So that flushes the toilet like that. Once you've finished, open it up. That drains it into the cassette, and then you can close it back over. Once you've closed it back over, you will then be able to take the cassette back out from outside. But if you leave it in the open position, that cassette will be locked in place, so you won't be able to move it. Just so that you know that. The windows are all pretty much exactly the same all the way around the vehicle, so I'll just show you this one for a reference point. You've got the blinds here, so the blinds pull down like that, nice and clean, really good condition. And the blackout blind comes out, slightly different blackout blind in the bathroom. The rest of them are completely blackout, but all the bathroom ones are this material, probably so when they get wet they don't get damaged. The sort of the window stays there, so something I want to show you as well. So one thing to point out with them is if you were parked right up against something here to the side of this window, and you opened up this window to the first latch there, and you were near enough touching that thing that you were right up against, you might find that you won't be able to close this window again, because you need to open it up about that much for it to come back. So if I show you, I can't pull this in now because it's locked in place. Where it gets to that latch, it's locked in then. So you have to go like that to allow it to come back. So if you open that right up against something, you might find you struggle to get it to come back in. So make sure that you've got enough space around you to use all of the windows. Don't worry if that does happen, because you just take this screw out at the top and it will come back, but it's just something to point out. And then obviously pull them all back across like that. So when you're ready to sort of pack the van up and go, and another thing, just remember all your skylights as well, like that. When you're ready to pack the van up and go wherever you're going, the main things are really, make sure all your windows are closed over, skylights are down, that sort of thing. Switch your gas off in the locker, make sure all your glass bits are down, which is really important because they make a hell of a noise when they smash. So all your glass is down, windows are shut, skylights down. Make sure that your gas is switched off and that your fridge, if you're going to be driving, is turned around to the 12 volt. And then other than that, that's about it really. Just make sure everything's closed, all your lockers are shut and locked. Turn your power off up here, and then you're set to go. So, you know, there's not really much else I can show you, to be honest. That radio isolator switch, just as I remember, is this one just here. So if I press that on now, in a few minutes, or a few seconds, sorry, the radio's powered up, and then you should hear the radio out these speakers. If it's locked onto a radio station, that is. I'll set up quit radio. So set that to the nearest radio station. There's a good choice there at BBC Radio 3. But the point is, music comes out through these speakers at the back. And if you wanted to turn that off, turn it off from there, radio's gone off. So, if there's anything else you think I've missed out, or anything you want going over again, you just let us know. But otherwise, we look forward to seeing you soon to collect your van. Thanks very much.